tweeted saying that black and brown people shouldn't mourn the passing of the Queen.
If you look at the British Empire, the reality is there's different sides to every story. And for me, racism in this country was outlawed in the late 60s. Why wasn't it enforced by the police? I think it's appalling. We were a racist country. It's not black and white.
You later went on to work for TalkSport, for example.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So Lee Clayton contacted my agent and said, we liked what we heard from Trevor on the BBC regarding the way that he broadcasts, the way that he talks about sport, the way he talks about football, the rapport that he has with people. We want to have a chat with him. So I met up with Lee. So I said to Lee, listen, Lee.
And just quickly, what year would that have been? What's the timeline here?
2019, maybe.
And how long after this incident we just discussed is that?
Maybe 18 months, 2 years.
Okay.
So I'd had a couple of years, but at this time I'm knee deep into my academy.
That's what you're focusing
players,
on.
Take me away, obviously doing my running, keeping myself sane, thinking, feeling a bit sorry for myself, but thinking, you know what, take it. Okay. It is what it is. I understand the world we live in, and I'll take that. It's just a circumstance that I've always had to deal with, and probably will always have to deal with. Okay. So I've gone into this meeting with Lee, and I've gone, listen, Lee, I don't want to waste your time. There's no point you getting me in and having 2 or 3 shows, getting a barrage of complaints and bottling it and saying, thanks, Trev, we appreciate that.
Right.
So I said, if you want me to come in, give me a contract. It doesn't have to be a massive contract, over the year, 20, 30 shows, whatever, and see how we get on. So he was happy with that. He went to his superiors, they agreed. I went in. I think what was the game I did first? I think it was Salford against... I'm not sure who the opposition was, but it was a low-key game.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. Started getting booked for more shows. Within 2 or 3 months, I'd done 30 shows already.
Yeah.
Hit the ground running. Obviously, I'd had 5 years, 6 years doing media in the UAE. So I wasn't a newbie, but kind of, they were giving me the opportunities. I was taking them. Next minute, I was on the show with Natalie Sawyer and Jim White, which then evolved into the Jim White and Simon Jordan show. Won awards as being the best radio sports show in the country. I was part of that show, and everything was going really well. My contracts were getting increased year on year. I was getting more responsibilities. I was hosting shows for TalkSport. And then what always happens is a tweet went out that I, from my own experience, thought was fair.
Okay.
And a lot of other people didn't think it was fair.
So for those who don't know, when the Queen died, you tweeted saying that black and brown people shouldn't mourn the passing of the Queen.
You've read that wrong, haven't you?
I've read that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, please correct
me. It says, why should black and brown people mourn?
Okay.
So it wasn't a statement. It wasn't
a statement saying they should. It was a question. Okay. That's interesting. So you deleted the tweet afterwards? I
did, yeah, because I had a lot of pressure. And actually, I didn't regret what was said in the tweet, because I actually, hand on heart, believe that was a genuine question. Okay. And it was a question repeated around the world, but not within England.
I see.
Because if you look at the empire, if you look at the British Empire, if you look at a lot of the countries in the Commonwealth, that question, or not even a question, a statement, why we're not going to mourn, was repeated everywhere. Okay. But we're insular, we're an island. We try and feed mainstream media to people and don't give them the reality. The reality is there's different sides to every story. And for me, my mum's Irish, from Republic of Ireland. My father's Jamaican. My mother's had to do things that mum shouldn't have to do for the kids in this country in the 70s and 80s. There was a reason why I said that.
Okay.
Why I asked that question. Because for me, racism in this country was outlawed in the late 60s. Why wasn't it enforced by the police? Because my mum, if she could, she would have gone to the police and made a complaint. But what would have happened in the 70s and 80s if my mum went to make that complaint that somebody had been racially abusing her son or beating her son up because of race, she would have got arrested. Now, this is what people don't understand, and they try and whitewash and say this didn't happen. No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. These things happened in our country. I've lived it. My mum's lived it. My mum and dad had no chance of surviving because of these structures in place.
And that happened to you when you were a kid? You were beat up because you played?
Well, I had a strategy. In the end, instead of getting into fights with older kids who were bigger and stronger than me, I'd run.
Okay.
And it might be 2 or 3 of them. You'd whittle it down to 1. And when he was tired, I'd say, come on, then let's fight.
Right. Okay. So just circling back on that a little bit, and I apologise if I did read that incorrectly,
That's okay.
as you say. Because you deleted the tweet, where I actually got that wording from was doing research online and seeing that a number of news outlets wrote it exactly as I said it, as it was a statement.
Of course they did. Because that fits the narrative.
I was going to say, does that frustrate you then? Because it sounds like that's misrepresenting what you said.
Why would it frustrate me? Our media, that's the way our media are. This is what I'm saying to you. You know, there's double standards. You hear what Jeremy Clarkson said about the princess of this country, walk around the streets, get shit thrown at her, this, that and the other. And that's allowed. He's still got his jobs. So why me asking a question, have I not got my job?
I'm just going to pause for a second because I'm very proud to announce that this show has its first sponsor, and it's a good one. It's NordVPN. As the owner of a marketing agency that operates online, it's really important for me and my team to stay protected with whatever we're doing online. And that's why NordVPN is essential to the operation of my business. Now, if you're a massive football fan like me, you can't watch every game because of the ridiculous 3 p.m. blackout, but you can if you use NordVPN. You can change your virtual location to another country where that game is actually being played. You can also watch games when you're abroad. NordVPN is also the fastest VPN, so no buffering, lagging, slowing your internet down. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Ben Heath. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description below. Go ahead and check it out. So you feel like it was unfair that TalkSport decided to end your contract because of that?
Well, part of my job is asking questions. I was a host. I was presenting shows. And we would go into politics from some of our topics that we talk about, because obviously football goes into different topics. It goes into politics. It goes into this. It goes into that. So one of our roles is to question things. I asked a question. And actually, the question was aimed at a certain demographic part of our society.
Okay.
So anyone not in that society, why are they getting upset about it? Because I asked a question. Because then if you want to have a debate about why would black and brown people, not just in this country, worldwide, not mourn the head of an institution, which is the monarchy, that the head of the Church of England, that have just accepted responsibility for slavery and offered billions of pounds to African countries that have been affected. I mean, where do people not get it?
Did you feel a responsibility to say something like that? Obviously, people think
I felt a motive about it.
You felt a motive about it?
Yeah, because my mum was, she was a fighter, but she had to fight a lot. And there was a lot of trauma around that. And in the end, my mum was from an era where there were drinkers. My mum died at 57 years old. I hold the institutions in this country partially to blame for that, for the pain, for the trauma that she had to go through.
Why is that?
Well,
sorry, can you explain a bit on that a bit more?
I mentioned earlier when we talked about no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. Do you understand what that means?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So my mum had a very difficult time moving to England.
Because she was Irish?
And because she was with a black man.
Right, okay.
Okay, so there was outside bars, outside hotels, outside restaurants, outside guest houses, these signs would be erected because we were a racist country. When the Race Act was brought into law in 1968, 1967, there was different phases of it. Why wasn't it enforced by the police?
Okay.
Because they allowed it to continue. Because, as we've just seen by certain reports that have been made on the Met Police, it's institutionally racist. It's not difficult. This is not me talking. This is factual. So these structures in place have delayed where we are now, where you can actually make a complaint if you're racially abused, and you'll see somebody take accountability for that. This should have been happening in the late 60s, early 70s. It wasn't. And I feel the trauma that my mother had to endure through that was one of the reasons why she ended up drinking. My mum she wasn't an academic woman. She'd read a book a night. She was an intelligent woman. But if you look at a scenario where you've brought kids into this world and you're thinking, this is unjust, there's no fairness about this, I mean, that'll drive you insane as a mother who's trying to protect the kids.
Yeah.
So I feel this played a huge part in the demise of my own mum.
Okay. Do you regret the tweet?
I was going to mention earlier, it's not that I regret the content of the tweet. I regret the lack of empathy for the grieving family and and possibly for people who had a very lovely relationship with the Queen, even though they might not have known her. I regret upsetting them because that's not what my intention was.
Yeah.
Sadly, emotions at that time came out of me because of my own loss and seeing everyone look at the Queen just as a positive. And I'm sure there was lots of positives about the Queen, but there was also other people who looked through different lenses, not just in this country, but all over the world, who looked through a different lens and it wasn't a positive one.
After you sent that tweet, did you think, I'm in trouble here, I'm going to lose my job?
I had a lot of discussions with the bosses at TalkSport regarding this matter, which obviously will have to stay private. Put it this way, I didn't just back down. I backed myself and said, why can't I ask this question?
And they didn't like that?
I'm not working there.
Okay. Simon Jordan, who you were obviously on a show with, fellow TalkSport host, was critical of the tweet at the time.
Of course he was.
What do you think of him based around that?
Well, I think he looks at the Queen through a different lens to me.
Okay.
And I respect that. But if he looked through my lens, he might respect what I said. Because I bumped into many people. Obviously, I've had a lot of criticism for the tweet, and I take that. I'm my own person. I'm only asking a question. If you can't ask a question about something, where are we? But going back to the rest of the world, big people, famous people, countries were coming out, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot going on at the moment with the Commonwealth, with relationship that Britain has with a lot of countries, especially in the Caribbean. But literally, I'm the perfect person to not be a monarchist. The history of Ireland, the history of the Caribbean, the history of Africa. I'm looking through my lens. I'm not asking anyone to look through my lens. I'm just telling them through my lens, why would black and brown people mourn?
Okay. There was a lot of criticism saying it was unpatriotic. Do you think it was unpatriotic what you tweeted?
It was unpatriotic, yeah.
Okay. But
you've got to understand, again, there's a nuance. I was born in England. I was brought up in England. I feel English. But I'm also from a descent. I'm from an Irish descent, and I'm from a Jamaican descent. So it's not, excuse the wording, it's not black and white. I'm proud to be English. I'm proud to play for my country. It's one of the proudest things I've ever done in my life. But I also have, two different cultures that I'm proud to be part of as well. And they've got a completely different way of looking at the monarchy, at the British Empire, and what they took around the world with colonialism and all these different things. Now, the Queen wasn't responsible for that, but she's the head of the monarchy that have been involved in that.
This was just a small segment from my conversation with Trevor Sinclair. If you want to watch the full, intense episode, you can do so right here.